Welcome to Retirement Perspectives with Bob Horn. If your retirement picture is blurry, Bob and the team at NuVenture Financial Group can help you put your retirement into focus. Bob strives to understand all of your financial needs to help guide you on the path to your retirement goals. This is Retirement Perspectives with Bob Horn.
It's no secret that the stock market is volatile, but if you're retired or soon to be, this volatility can threaten your hard-earned savings in a much different way than when you were younger. Younger people can afford more mistakes because they have time on their side, but once retired, you may not have a second chance to get it right. We'll get to that big topic in a second. Plus, Bob shows you 3 important attributes to understand when investing your money in retirement. And later, we'll tackle some of your biggest investing for retirement questions. Welcome everyone, I'm Danielle Martin, joined by Bob Horn, the founder of NuVenture Financial Group, located right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Bob, it's great to be back with you.
As always, it's great to be back with you, Danielle.
In case you heard that big topic, we have lots to get into because we're discussing how to invest in retirement. So for people who have done well in investing and saving money for retirement, why should we change a different or have a different approach, especially when we get older?
Yeah, so this is a topic we talk a lot about at our office and at some of the educational workshops we do. It's important to understand that, you probably, when you're working in retirement or you're working up to retirement, you're in what they call the accumulation phase. It's the growth phase, and it's where folks should be adding money to their 401ks and their investments and worried about growth, getting to that big nest egg. But once you get into retirement, the paradigm shifts and things become differently. Now it's not necessarily about growth, Danielle. It's more about particularly preservation and income distribution. And there are a number of risks that accompany that kind of situation. This is where working with a qualified retirement planner, not necessarily a financial advisor, a qualified retirement planner to help you navigate all those things that are going to be going on in your retirement. So one of the big things we talk about, a big risk, is what they call sequence of returns risk. And it doesn't get talked about enough. What this is a risk that if you are taking income from a portfolio in your retirement, and that portfolio is mostly in investments, and we go through a series of years or a time frame where the market goes down and you're taking money out of your investments, that can cause some long-term effects down the road that may not present themselves for 10 or 15 years where you may find yourself running out of money. So it's really important to make sure that we address that risk on the front end and know that we're going from more of a growth to an income situation in retirement.
Bob, I know we can all remember the times earlier this year where things kind of took a turn a little bit, especially in the market. Yeah. But speaking of risks, what are some other big risks that we have to consider in retirement?
Yeah, so we talk about sequence of returns risk. Doesn't get talked about enough. That's a big one for sure. And we address that at our office. Another one that we address as well is what we call inflationary risk. Oftentimes we'll see people that come to our office with sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in these really low interest bearing accounts. And they've done that because they're a little bit scared about the market volatility. So they've put large sums of money in these low interest bearing accounts. What they may not realize though is that they've eliminated the market risk, but they've introduced a different type of risk called inflationary risk. If you take a large sum of money and put it into low interest bearing accounts, it may not keep up with inflation. Then we also have to worry about outliving our savings as well. Do I have enough money, and is it going to take me through my entire my lifespan? You could live 30 years or more of your retirement without any earned income. That's really important. Do I have enough, and can I make it? Then obviously we adjust for market risk. Tax risk is a big one as well.
And you mentioned that keyword taxes, that one word we cannot avoid, especially in retirement. Kind of talk about once people stop working, they kind of think that their taxes are going to go down. Is that really true or no?
So that's actually a very big misconception, I feel like. And admittedly, we are a pretty heavy tax planning firm. We do a lot of tax planning for the folks we work with. We're not CPAs, but we do a lot of tax efficiency or tax minimization planning at our office. We find that a lot of times that when folks are working with tax preparers and CPAs, those professionals a lot of times are looking backwards through what we call the rearview mirror. They're trying to fix what's already happened. Whereas we take more of a tactical approach and we're looking down the road. What's coming up? What do we know? What are the rules that are changing coming up on the road, and how do we navigate those? To your point, Danielle, a lot of times that misconception is that we feel like a lot of times when we go into retirement, we've been told for years that obviously when you retire, we're going to be in a much lower tax bracket. And it's just not the truth a lot of times. And there's a couple reasons why. For number one, when you retire or get close to retirement, a lot of times your mortgage is either paid off or it's paid down a lot. So we're not paying a lot of interest that's deductible on your taxes. The kids are out of the house or should be out of the house by that time, so you lose that deductibility. And then also too, we've done other shows on the spending smile. That first 10 or 15 years should be the time where you're enjoying that money. And a lot of times you're spending more money in your first 10 or 15 years of retirement. You should be enjoying that money. Then you couple that with the fact that most of our clients have most of their money in IRAs and 401ks. That's gonna be taxable to them. Social Security, up to 85% of your Social Security could be taxable. So there's a ton of stuff that we kind of unravel when it comes to tax risk. And we do actual meetings at our office, 2-hour meetings that are just solely based on tax planning for our clients to make sure they're being as efficient as possible.
Well, we always like to remind our viewers that there's a lot of things to consider in retirement, so you definitely don't want to plan alone. But we're going to continue this conversation coming up soon. Stock market volatility, inflation, and taxes could all increase the chances of outliving your savings. So how can you manage this risk? Well, Bob explains coming up next and later. Bob shows you 3 important attributes to understand when investing your money in retirement. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
Where does your nest egg live? If you're like many, your assets are tied to the stock market, so during a downturn, they could decrease in value to such a degree that it could jeopardize your future in retirement. Welcome back, everyone. We're here with Bob Horn of NuVenture Financial Group. We're talking today about the more common mistakes that people make when investing in retirement. It's a big deal. Let's talk about those 3.
Yeah, so some of the mistakes that people make, and one of the big ones, honestly, is people they'll fall for a sales pitch. Unfortunately, in this business, there's a lot of people that are out selling people on all the things they should do, whether it's falling for some kind of whiz-bang mutual fund account or some annuity that's being sold. A lot of people are falling for those sales pitches. I'm not here to say that mutual funds are bad or annuities are bad or any savings or investment vehicle is bad, but just be careful about falling for those sales pitches. It's really, really important. I also make sure, and I tell people this when they come into my office for the very first time, I tell them, make sure you ask me the detailed questions that you need. What's going to make you comfortable? I can't answer your question unless you ask it. Ask me very black and white questions. I expect that. And so you need to ask questions about, are you a fiduciary? What are your fees? And all the questions that you need to know, all the answers you need to know to make you feel very comfortable working with a professional. You also need to make sure a mistake is people take on, I feel like, a lot more risk than they have to in their retirement. I tease some people sometimes when they come to my office. I say, look, you're already wealthy. How about we just keep you wealthy? That kind of thing. Right. we don't need to necessarily make these huge gains in the market every year and take on a lot of risk. It's really important. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but we don't necessarily need to. And then obviously, we need to make sure that we define what's investing for growth and what's investing for income. Two totally different things that I think people make mistakes on.
Bob, let's talk about another approach that I'm sure many investors use, the classic 60-40 mix of stocks and bonds, having recently been through trying different times. But talk about, is that safe? What's your opinion on that approach?
Yeah, so historically and typically, bonds tend to be a little bit safer than stock market accounts, if you will. However, in 2022, bond funds were down 15%. So it kind of flew on its face. And so we got to make sure that we understand that bonds are typically a little safer, but they're not always safe. You can actually lose money in bond funds. Also, too, what's really important to understand is that bonds and bond yields have an inverse relationship with interest rates. As interest rates go down, bond yields or interest rates go up, bond yields go down, and just the opposite. It's kind of like a teeter-totter back on the playground when we were kids. They're inverse with each other. So interest rates having moved up makes bond yields go down, bad. But when they go back down, bond yields should go back up. That's very good. And so some of these rising interest rates will provide a silver lining. There's going to be more low-risk opportunities available for clients moving forward.
Now, we know that there are some people who are those strong risk takers, but there's others that are not. They're not comfortable with that. So what do you say to those who are not as comfortable taking that big risk when it comes to investing?
Yeah, so number one, listen to your gut. Your retirement is way too important just to let that happen. So, at our office, what we often will do is we'll quantify your risk tolerance. The story I always tell to explain people is if we're on a 3-lane, interstate highway, and the 3 lanes, which lane do you want to be on? Do you want to be in the very right lane driving 55 miles an hour? It may take you longer to get to your destination, but you're probably going to be a little safer. Or do you want to be in the middle lane driving the speed limit, driving 70 miles an hour? Or Danielle, and maybe this is you, are you in the left lane dipping and diving out of traffic doing 85 miles an hour?
Those are my business out here.
I don't know.
Just kidding.
So, but to each his own, right? So it's really important that we define which lane do you want to be in, and then as an advisor, we put you in the appropriate vehicle that's going to drive as fast as you want to drive. It's really, really important. So make sure if your gut's not telling you where you want to be, that you get that second opinion.
I think especially when it comes to investing, Bob, there's a lot of people that have questions about this. Really quickly before we go to break, what are some other factors that we need to think about, especially when we're investing in retirement? So
like we said before, a big one is if we need income in retirement, where are we getting that income? What are the sources that we're getting that income from? I often tell people that the stock market's designed to be a growth engine, and it does a very good job of doing that over time, growing your money. But I don't feel like it's appropriate to use it for an income perspective. It just is not very useful. There's other conduits that we can use to generate some really good income. That's really the biggest thing that we deal with folks in retirement, is making sure that when that paradigm changes, that we're coaching them and teaching them about that risk.
Coaching and teaching. We definitely want to not do investing alone, especially in retirement, because this is not a space, I don't think, where you should be doing it yourself, right? This is a time and opportunity for you to work with an advisor to make sure you're not going in too deep. So thank you for those insights. We're going to continue more on the show here. Coming up next, Bob shows you 3 important attributes to understand when investing your money in retirement. And later, we answer some of your biggest questions about retirement and investing. Stay with us. Retirement Perspectives with Bob Horn continues right after this.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy, but with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
Time now for Retirement in Focus. In today's hectic world, Bob shows you 3 important attributes to understand when investing your money in retirement. Bob, is there one single investment that can help us achieve our goals?
Thanks, Danielle. So in this week's Retirement in Focus segment, we're going to talk about the 3 worlds of money. And there is no perfect investment. It's really important to understand that there is no magic bullet. There is no perfect investment. The way that we equate investments, they're just like basically tools. And just like if you were working in the garden, if you were raking the leaves, you're going to use a rake. You wouldn't use a shovel to rake the leaves. It's not good for that. A shovel is good for digging holes. An axe is good for maybe chopping a shrub down. So we want to make sure that all tools do things very, very well, but they also do some things very poorly. The problem is some folks get into one type of investment or one tool because they think they do everything, and they just don't do that. So let's kind of talk about this. Let's kind of describe the 3 worlds of money. So the first type of money that you can have is what we call fixed type of money. What are these? These might be like a savings account, a money market account, even a good old-fashioned CD at the bank. So why do people put money in these accounts? What are the characteristics of this type of money? Well, first and foremost, you're probably telling yourself, well, number one, they're safe. We can't lose money if the stock market dives. We can't lose money in a CD or a money market or even a savings account. Well, why else do people use this type of tool? Well, a lot of these, specifically your savings accounts and your money market accounts, they're very, very liquid. So you can get money to them, get access to them very quickly. However, we don't want to use these types of investments or these savings vehicles for growth. They're not designed to do that. The second type of money you can have is what we call indexed type of accounts. Specifically indexed annuities and actually indexed universal life insurance. So why do people put money here? Well, number one, they're safe. They're contractually guaranteed by the insurance company that you cannot lose money. They can also offer you reasonable rates of growth. However, the bad thing about these is they're not super liquid, so you don't want to put all of your money in this bucket either. They do some things very, very well, safe and reasonable growth, but they're not going to offer you a lot of liquidity. The last type of money you can have is what we call market type of money, stock market money. Stuff tied to some type of market. These are stocks and bonds. It could be mutual funds, ETFs, vehicles like this. So why do people put money in the stock market or in a market? Well, number one, for growth. They want to have some type of growth. What's another good feature of money like this? Well, it's access. We use Fidelity and Charles Schwab at our office. When clients call us, they can get very easy access, usually within about 2 or 3 days of having money. So these accounts are obviously very, very liquid. What are they not going to provide to us though? Well, the stock market account, at some point, they're going to lose money. So we don't say this money is very safe. We can make them safer, but it's not completely safe. So all the characteristics of the money, notice that they all have 2 good things and 1 negative thing. Different types of risk. This one is going to be an inflation risk because it's not going to grow very well. This one's going to be an access risk because there's penalties to get the money out early. And over here is a big risk of loss. So you can see there's not just one place to put your money. There's going to be some pros and cons to different types of money. That's why we always recommend having some type of diversified portfolio. So I hope you got a lot out of today's Retirement in Focus segment. Danielle, back to you.
Thanks, Bob. Well, coming up next, get answers to your retirement questions in our Q&A segment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. Our current tax rates are set to expire in just a few short years. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to get to some of your questions that you have for Bob today. Bob, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
It's our favorite part of the show. It's a great opportunity for us to hear directly from you and an opportunity to hear exactly from Bob. So let's see our first question from Jessica in Ponte Vedra. She says, my husband and I have very different ideas about investing. I am more conservative while he is more comfortable with risk. Any suggestions for resolving this difference? Not any marriage advice, but more so money
good. I won't give any
advice.
marriage advice. So Jessica, honestly, this is a very common subject that comes up with many of the families that come into our office. One spouse wants to be a little more conservative and one spouse wants to be a little more aggressive. The thing you need to remember is that's okay. That's very normal. And so one of the processes that we go through when we bring a new family on board with NuVenture is we actually will segment it off and we'll go through what we call a risk tolerance questionnaire, which is kind of unlike many advisors use. And we use something a little bit different. We actually quantify a risk tolerance. And like we mentioned before in the segment, we're going to drive the car the speed you want to. So if your husband wants to be a little more aggressive, we can put him in that vehicle that's going to be a little more aggressive. But if your gut's telling you want to be a little more conservative, that's okay. We can figure out that solution for you as well. And then by doing that, the entire portfolio is operating the way that you want it to operate. So that's a great question, but understand it's a very common thing that we deal with.
You know, Bob, I'm pretty sure Jessica's like, thank you, because we as women, we love options. So options is definitely the answer and the way to go. So that's good to know that we can sit down and talk with you and figure out a solution to where it fits both of their needs.
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's get to our next question from Brad in Fruit Cove. He says, what changes should I make to my investment approach if I am forced to retire sooner than I had originally planned? You know, Bob, I know many people have this question.
Yeah, so hopefully you're not forced to retire sooner than you want to. But if you are, you know, obviously the rule of thumb is that when you go into retirement, you should be more conservative. That is completely just a rule of thumb, though. It doesn't mean that's what you need to do. Some of the things that you need to prepare for, though, if you think this is going to be happening, is take a look at your investments and are they diversified enough? Are you all in a really aggressive fund with your 401k, or can you diversify that out? And certainly, if you are laid off or you are let go or you do retire, you can roll your money out of your 401k and take control of those assets and then diversify it from there. Also, you can start working on tax mitigation strategies as well when you roll that money out. So look at the diversification of your assets. Look at the tax risk as well. And then obviously the question becomes, do I need income in retirement? Should I prepare for that as well? There's ways to kind of navigate those questions also.
Really good insights there. Thanks, Bob. Okay, we have another question from Will in San Marco. He says, my retirement accounts are down, but my broker keeps insisting that everything is fine. So what should I do?
Will, so great question. Listen to your gut. So I'm not suggesting that your broker is doing good things or bad things, but what I am suggesting is you should listen to your gut. If you're not happy with the performance of your account, or you think maybe you're taking on too much risk, listen to that gut and maybe go out and seek a second opinion. You know, many of the families that we work with, they don't want to take on a bunch of risk. They don't need to. And it's really important that you understand that. It's a great question.
That's right. Okay, we have time for one last question from Jennifer in Rivertown. She says, I am concerned taxes are going up and I want to know the best way to protect my investments. she's not alone. I know many people are asking this question, especially around this time. Taxes doesn't go away in retirement, right, Bob?
Yeah, taxes are not going to go away. So, Jennifer, it's another good question. And like we talked about earlier in the show, my firm is a very tax-heavy planning firm. We talk a lot about taxes, specifically when they come to retirement. So number one, you need to know that there's different investments, and savings conduits you can put your money into that are going to operate differently when it comes to tax efficiency. That's really important because most people think, well, I put my money in the stock market. Well, there's other opportunities you may have that may be able to leverage tax efficiency. And then you start looking at strategies for tax minimization in retirement. The big one that a lot of people are talking about, and we do a lot of, are Roth IRA conversions. The question is, should you do a Roth IRA conversion, number one? And then if so, how much? We need to make sure we understand that number. Other things that we can utilize in retirement, if you're more charitably minded, you're more philanthropic, you can use what they call qualified charitable distributions, known as QCDs, if you're over age 70 and a half. You can use charitable remainder trusts, charitable lead trust, donor advised funds. There are tons of different strategies that you can use to kind of minimize taxes. And then the last thing, not including kind of retirement accounts, but if you have brokerage accounts, things that are after tax, you can do tax loss harvesting. There's a ton of different things you can do to minimize taxes, because sometimes we feel like if you don't do this, we have the reports that will show it can cost you literally thousands of dollars in retirement if you don't do this, and you can just waste money for sure.
Bob, we want to thank our viewers for taking the time to submitting their questions. This is a great opportunity for us to hear directly from you. But for those who have more questions about retirement, for those who are looking for more strategies and resources, they can start with your book, Retirement in Perspective. You want to grab that book right now. You can find it right here on your screen. But in the meantime, let's share, what does it look like for a first-time client coming into your office and stepping in and saying, hey, I need help with my retirement plan, or maybe they have a DIY retirement plan put together and they want to say, hey, Bob, let's just pass it to you. Help me. What does that first time experience look like with your office?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So you talk about the book. So when everybody comes into my office for the very first visit, when they leave my office, they're going to come away with that book. And I've written that book to address a lot of the questions that are getting asked on these shows. Over time, we've developed a series of answers. And so I will outline some of the chapters that I think are really important after that first visit. And again, that first visit that we have is basically just to have a good picture of each other. Do you like me? Do I like you? What's our gut feel like? Should we go to the next steps? We learn a lot more about each other.
Bob, I always appreciate your time here with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you want to know ways to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, reach out now to start planning for your ideal retirement. For Bob Horn of NuVenture Financial Group, I'm Danielle Martin. Have a great day and an even better retirement.